I just can't fathom it.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, the Kremlin has announced the leader of the Wagner mercenary group will be moving to Belarus as part of a deal to end his rebellion. Moscow also says the criminal charges against Yevgeny Prigozhin are being dropped after he called his forces back from a march on the capital, which began after they seized the Russian city of Rostov. Dr. Jenny Mathers is a Russian politics and security expert at Aberystwyth University. She's been telling LBC Ukraine has done well out of today's apparent chaos.
I've already seen suggestions that the Ukrainians have taken the opportunity to, push their counteroffensive a bit harder today. The hope, obviously, among the Ukrainians is that this will lead to a great deal of disarray among the Russian troops. And the more disarray, of course, the better for the Ukrainians. So they're going to do, I'm sure, everything they can to take advantage of confusion and lack of morale and general uncertainty surrounding what's going on in Moscow.
Wagner had turned on President Putin's regime, accusing the country's official army of attacking its fighters in Ukraine. Police in Canada are now looking into the circumstances of the deaths of 5 people in the fatal implosion of the Titan submersible. It was destroyed almost a week ago during a dive to the site of the wreck of the Titanic. Superintendent Kent Osman is from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Deaths where people go missing offshore, where there's a death that requires investigation offshore, yes. The RCMP assumes those investigations. There's no suspicion of criminal activity per se, but the RCMP is taking initial steps to assess whether or not we will go down that road.
A man's been stabbed by a group of burglars in Northern Ireland, one of them armed with a hatchet. Police say he was wounded in the face and the shoulder after the attack at a house in North Belfast this morning. At least one person's been killed and another 5 injured after an attack by a suicide bomber in southwestern Pakistan. It's believed they were targeting a military convoy in the city of Turbat. A spokesman for the separatist Baloch Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for the attack. And in sport, Lee couldn't prevent Catalan Dragons from moving 2 points clear at the top of Rugby League's Super League as they suffered a 38-30 defeat away to the leaders. Lee will now stay in 3rd place in the table. LBC weather: cloud will form in Northern Ireland and western areas overnight, but it should stay dry and clear for the rest of the UK with a low of 14. Tomorrow it's a case of heavy rain in the west, which will then move eastwards, but the far southeast should stay hot and dry. Cooler in the west of the UK, but a high elsewhere of 31 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Tim Daly.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
This is absolute tosh.
Well, let's get back to it.
Texts and tweets and such from last night. Cat, not an actual cat. I mean, I'm assuming that cat is not identifying as an actual cat. But I've got plenty of stories about that to come, some of which are pretty funny. I think the kids are messing with you, adults. Cat texts, Sunak probably thinks he knows what it's like to be poor because he once listened to the song Common People by Pulp. He's down with the kids. Yeah, no, he isn't. Fraser says, eventually we'll all be shuffling down a city street in rags like the great unwashed in a TV period drama, while Grease Smug gallops past in his gilded carriage as a monogrammed silk... Oh, never mind.
My view...
Yeah, my view is I shouldn't have started that in the first place. Something about a monogrammed silk handkerchief, which is way too many syllables for this early in the show. My math hasn't caught up to speed yet. I should do exercises before I come on the air. Yogesh says, so interest rates will mean us paying more money to the banks for nothing in return instead of spending some on essential items. Truly bizarre. How about just requiring all employers to cut 10 to 20% from wages, put these in savings accounts for 1 to 2 years until inflation comes down, then hand these savings back to employees? Why wouldn't this work? How about just requiring all employers to cut 10 to 20% from wages, put these in savings accounts for 1 to 2 years until inflation comes down, then hand back the savings to the employees. Why wouldn't this work? Why wouldn't that work? Because the reason that the banks are stating, or the central banks are saying that they must increase interest rates is to stop us spending money. You know, running around spending money like a drunken sailor on stuff we don't need. Which no one is doing, by the way. They wanted to persuade us to put our money into savings account. You know, all that extra money that we've got lying about the place. So if we did that, if employers did cut 10 to 20% from wages, I mean, just enough that we could, you know, get by, thinking of the long-term benefits, then they would put them in savings accounts and the banks would be paying more on those savings accounts than they currently are, let's say 4 to 5%, put them away for 2 years, and then hand us the money back. Why wouldn't that work? Any experts in the audience want to clue us in as to why that wouldn't work? Shane says mortgage holders should start calling their bank, get on hold now, beat the queues, remember there's no branches to visit. P.S. I got Rish's latest to soothing words as a ringtone.
I am totally 100% on it.
It's okay, everybody, he's on it. Being on it is his number one priority. He's the Prime Minister of this country. Can you believe that?
No.
Good grief. Ben says, you mentioned that once a country sells its water, it has nothing left to sell. That is actually untrue. There is Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs and the government left to sell. Once sold to foreign investors, our taxes will be paid to overseas companies and the country will be run from abroad. Ben, the country is already run from abroad. From wherever Rupert Murdoch and Lord Rothermere live. Paul says, if you want a good wig maker, then Michael Fabricant is the last person you should ask. It can't be a wig. It just can't. This is in reference to I can't remember what it was we were talking about this yesterday. Can't remember how it came up. But somebody had the suggestion that it's a wig. It can't be. 2 reasons. 1, no wig maker would make something that looks like that. 2, nobody would buy a wig that looks like that. So it must be his real hair. But it can't be. It can't be. What is it? I mean, there have been a lot of sights of, UFOs in the skies lately, a lot of unidentified flying objects lately, so perhaps it's one of those. Perhaps it's like the face sucker from Alien, but it was drunk and it missed its target. It's just suctioned itself onto the top of his head instead of, on the front of his face. Goodness knows where its tube has gone. On the subject of speaking Welsh, which we were talking about yesterday, can't remember why. Peter says, yes, Welsh people speak Welsh to each other. It's the first language for many of the population in certain parts of Wales. You need to visit North Wales, for example, to witness it. Peter, I do visit North Wales. North Wales is one of the most beautiful places on the earth. I was at Bodnant Gardens just recently, which is an absolute unalloyed delight. It really is. Bodnant Gardens, one of the best gardens I've ever been to in my whole life. And I didn't hear anybody speaking Welsh to each other. I'm not sure it's a North Wales thing. Is it more a Southern Wales? I also think it's an older person's thing. I haven't done a poll. This is not necessarily true, but it doesn't prevent it from being a fact. I haven't done a poll, but I think it's probably an old person's thing, speaking the Welsh language to each other. And they should continue to do that, because if you don't keep it going, it dies. Donald says, I wonder if Just Stop Oil will target Glastonbury, or are there too many of their mates there? Yeah, I would imagine that there are a lot of their mates there. And that would upset you, Donald, but they're having amusement. I bet some of them are wearing Wellington boots, which were made from the products of oil. I mean, perhaps Donald is not interested in the climate. He certainly isn't concerned about climate change or the effect that it will have on our lifestyles. Donald is one of those people, I bet, that has done his own research.
Correct.
We're in great danger from people who have done their own research. Paul says, there was another lady on Question Time. Oh, this, maybe I should have watched Question Time, but I'm just allergic to it. I just can't stand it. It's one of my days off, and I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to watch it. Not on a day off. Oh, message coming in from next door. The fabricant thing was in relation to the caller with chemo. Oh, right. Paul says there was another lady on Question Time who claimed she intended to vote Remain until she saw a straight banana in a supermarket. Yeah, that can't be true. There was a lady on Question Time who claimed that she intended to vote Remain until she saw a straight banana in a supermarket. To be clear, none of them voted Brexit because of massive xenophobia, says Paul. Well, I'm relieved to hear that. One of them voted Brexit because of people on roofs or something like that. I don't think it was clear in her own mind. As she was explaining it to us, this is probably the sound that she was hearing. It certainly was the sound that I was hearing. Something about health and safety regulations in this company are there to prevent workers from falling from roofs to their deaths, and we have to pay for that, which she disliked a very great deal. Because in France and Germany, people go up on their roofs with nothing. Which is why she voted to leave the European Union. That makes sense, yes?
No.
Not really, no. We're being led by those people. Whoever shouts the loudest. Facts ain't got nothing to do with it. What have facts got to do with it? Rebecca says, Ranjit from Oldham and his chip shop, he's still being unfaithful to you with Sheila in the afternoon. Huh?
What?
Unfaithful? Calling other shows? Why, I oughta. And Sally says, Fishy has small man syndrome. Smooth as he pretends to be, Fishy has a chip on his shoulder because he's not 6 feet tall. I had an uncle who was much like him, says Sally. Right. Yeah, I don't think we should concentrate too much on his size. We should concentrate more on the things that he does. No! Yeah. Of which I have detailed files. But first, let's have this call in Chelsea. Hello, Mark. An ecstasy of fumbling. Yes, Mark.
Very quickly, can you hear me?
No.
Okay, so the utter excrement that is Westminster, the palace of, that we vote for, I mean, there's hundreds of millions of pounds cash at the most difficult time with people freezing elderly to death, starving, begging in the streets, homeless, given to friends and colleagues and associates, which they actually admit, and they have a nice term for it, fast tracking. There'll never be a forensic accountant examining the accounts.
I can't believe it. I actually find it hard to believe that they're getting away with it. That
if you're blind,
the billions of pounds of our money that got funneled into the accounts of friends and relatives and donors and is just sitting there for them having provided nothing at all, or worse, things that don't work that we then have to spend money on either storing or getting rid of. I just can't believe that nobody's looking into this.
It cost under 100,000 deaths, but corporate manslaughter, gross negligence, fraud aside, if you are a blind, disabled human being here, legally, applying for personal independence payment, they want your bank statement. But if you're a cabinet minister, number 3 in the cabinet, that then becomes today number 1. And the question on LBC is can you trust Rishi? Yeah, but I think he's got different facial features from Boris, but they were in the same bed, metaphorically, cabinet.
They're the same people. He's just a slightly smoother version of...
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Who was a more popular version of...
Absolutely.
Who was a completely different kettle of fish to the person who preceded her. Blimey, it's so long ago that I can barely remember who it was.
I think this is nonsense.
And their faces change, but the direction of travel remains the same. All right, thanks a lot, Mark. 0345 6060 973. James says we should rejoin the European Union straight away The German and French roofers there don't have the use of any safety rails. Sounds amazing, says James. Well, he's got a good point. It was one of the stupidest jobs I ever took up. I was in America, needed a bit of cash because I spent most of the money that I went there with in about 2 weeks. I went there for 3 months just to, bum around. And I spent most of the money that I took there in about 2 weeks doing nothing at all in New York. It just disappears in New York. I was staying at a hotel that was so bad that the guy on the desk, the first thing that I noticed was that somebody died in the room across the hall from me, and the authorities were, making good with clearing it up as I was sort of checking into my room, which was this abysmal, tiny thing with a view of the light well on the inside of the building. In other words, a brick wall. And I went downstairs, and the guy at the desk took pity on me and said, "Hey, buddy, when you go out, don't turn left, only turn right." Other than that, nothing to be concerned about. It was right on the border of what they used to call Alphabet City, which with the where now my knowledge of Manhattan geography is not that great, but I think it used to be right by the edge, pretty much, where the streets started to be named by letters rather than numbers. I think I got that right. And around that time that I was there, 1982, still pretty dangerous, very exciting. Oh, my God, I've never been anywhere that's more exciting in my life. There's like a feeling of electricity surging from the pavement up through you. It was intense, but it did have the ability to just disappear your money on apparently nothing at all. I used to eat as late as possible the breakfast brunch, which was enormous, in the cafe across the road, the diner. Eggs and bacon and pancakes and waffles and coffee and orange juice and all of the rest of it for like $2.99, something like that, just giving it away. And if you ate late enough, then that would keep you going for the day. And still the money disappeared. Oh, anyway, the point of the story was that I did that. I took a job as a labourer for a day, pulling tiles off a school roof, which was about 5 stories up and sloped vertiginously. And as I was up there pulling tiles off, balancing on the apex of the roof, I thought maybe there should be some sort of like rope or something to stop me plummeting over the edge to my death. But that was 1982 and we didn't do health and safety. We had the freedom to die, which is what we've lost now. Now we've left the European Union. No! Yeah, thanks a lot, Uncle Nige. How quickly we forget. Out of the news for just a week or so, and I've forgotten already.
I'm a nutcase.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Uncle Nige. Health and safety. Why can't people just be happy to die in a patriotic British way? 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hello? Number, please. Trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Sorry to keep you waiting. James in Archway.
Hello, Nick.
James.
I want to ask you a question, and the question is, James Corden or Comden, he retired from the Late Show in America.
James Corden, yeah.
Yeah, yes. Now the question is that position filled?
I don't know.
Because I saw a picture. First of all, I was wondering in my mind who would be good for this job, and I said, just came into my mind, Peter Cheethy.
Who?
Peter Cheethy. Now he used to compare shows in here, and he's also a comedian. So I was in the I was in the Irish Centre, and there was a picture of Peter Kilty. So I said, I didn't know he was a comedian. Oh yes, you mentioned he was. So then I mentioned about the Late Late Show.
Well, hang on a minute. Hang on, back up. So you knew him, but you didn't know he was a comedian?
No. I knew him from the television. I didn't know him personally.
Right, but you didn't know he was a comedian?
No, I knew
he can't be very funny then. You've seen him on television and you didn't know he was a comedian. He's going to be very upset to hear that.
I know, but anyway, going back, I said to him about the Late Late Show in America. Oh no, he said, I can't comment on that. But he got the new position in Ireland as the late host, compere host. So that surprised me. But I think he would have been perfect for the one in America. I mean, as you say, you're in it for the money, honey. Would you pick the one in Ireland or in America? Be honest. It had to be America, to me.
Yeah.
But you know, we are, as Nick Ferrari says.
But before we go any further, James, is the purpose of this call to say that you thought that Patrick Kilty would be good as the host?
Yes, as the host, absolutely,
right.
yes.
Okay, but based on what though? I mean, what persuaded you to call and tell me that?
Well, I think that of all the people, you know what I mean, that I saw here, I think that he would be probably.
Yes, but I'm curious as to why you called to tell me that.
I don't know why.
Right. Well, that makes two of us. But I certainly am glad that you took the time. Thanks a lot, James, for, whatever that was. Sally says, Rishi strikes me as the specky swatty kid with no friends who suddenly found himself playing with the big boys. He'd work away doing their homework and might find himself unexpectedly at a birthday party. I'll never forget his little face when he thought he'd produced a really good budget. He still can't believe cool people speak to him. Not that he knows how to speak to them. Intoxicating brew, eh? Says Sally. No. And on that subject, Sonia says, why are people obsessed with how much money Rishi has? He has clearly worked hard, as has his family, so why shouldn't he have money and wear nice clothes? Give him a break. Worked hard? What are you talking about? He laid a bet and made 100 million quid. Worked hard. And then he married £1 billion. Do me a favour. 0345 6060 973. The man doesn't even know how to use a credit card, for crying out loud. Worked hard. Belfast, hello, Ian.
Hello.
Ian, what do you think about that Patrick Kilty issue?
He'd be happy, won't he?
I've got no idea what that was about.
No, but he'd be happy. Patrick will be happy, won't he?
Well, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't know where he was a comedian.
No. Yeah, I've seen him a lot on TV, and apparently he's a comedian. Who knew?
Yeah. Well, that's what he says. That's what he says.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, you're probably funnier, actually. But anyway. No, I think it was your first point. I've actually lost it now because there's been that many headers. There's so many people with different views, I would say, rather than headers. Maybe that's not a good word. On the forum that I've lost the thread.
I'll put you back on hold, shall I, Ian? And in the intervening period, you can take us off speakerphone. Dan says, just got back from the pub with my mate who happens to be Mexican. He's announced that he's off to Mexico on Tuesday, leaving his wife and daughter here because he feels with the impending financial hardship in this country, he can support them better by working there. Good grief. I mean, no offence to Mexicans, but that's embarrassing. These are texts and tweets and such from last night. Tim says, like you, in 1984, I drove down to Glastonbury in my dad's old Citroen estate. I did not drive down to Glastonbury in my dad's old Citroen estate. So that's a lie. Or maybe it means that he drove down to Glastonbury. It's just that he did it in his dad's old Citroen estate. That probably makes more sense. He says, I did it without a ticket. Oh, well, I didn't do that. I never went down to Glastonbury without a ticket. I mean, that just seems like the wrong thing to do to me. I mean, you know, the farmer, Michael Eavis, he deserves the money that money he makes from it, and a great deal of it goes to good causes. Who are you stealing from there, Tim? Anyway, he says, I drove down to Glastonbury in my dad's old Citroen estate without a ticket, but as I got to the first road check, I just told them that my sister had phoned home as she was unwell and wanted me to pick her up. At the next roadblock, they asked if I was the guy with the ill sister and waved me through. I drove right into the festival and parked so that I could lie in the back of the car and see the main stage. I still feel slightly guilty. You should do. That is amazing, though, to think that these days you can barely squeeze yourself into the field of the main stage, whereas in 1982, when I went, 83, 84, you could park in that field and put your tent next to your car. Times have changed, and not necessarily for the better. Let's have a call in. Now, who's been waiting long? I'll take him right now. Aranjit.
Nick, can you play that jingle which says, I'm really sorry, that one?
Why is that?
Because you've had people reporting me that I'm being a bit of a... sleeping around, as they say on shows.
Not sleeping around, phoning around, calling other shows.
What? Yeah, no, but I used to listen to local radio on the BBC, and they've gone down the pan, so I listen to LBC quite a bit.
Right.
And obviously you're quite popular, and quite a few times I've rang an earlier show, and I said, look, I don't want to come on because I want to save myself a nick.
Right.
Yeah. So I do save myself.
Okay,
because
then.
We do get on well.
I believe you.
Yeah. Right. You know the thing about the rich hoovering everything up, yeah? And I've been saying for a few months to you, they've been culling people. They started at the bottom, yeah?
Culling?
You know,
what, as in
them.
killing?
Yeah. Yes, virtually killing them. You know, they want us wiped out, right? So they started out at the bottom, you know, demonised all the unemployed and everything. And then they demonised all the foreigners. Mm-hmm. So we hated each other, right? So now they're demonising the people that own homes. Yeah. That
own homes?
Yeah, because we're now going to start losing our homes because we can't pay our mortgages. And they're saying that we want to curb inflation, so we're putting up the interest rate. So someone who's on, say, £30,000 a year, but put it this way, my son, he's a graduate. He's done a 2-1 in business management. He's on £24,500. How is he ever going to get anywhere in life? Because you're not going to even be able to buy a house. Even if you went 5 times your salary, £125,000, won't even buy you a 1-bedroom flat.
It seems to me that the plan, if indeed there is one, is to keep us all running furiously in order to stay still. Just to keep, if not running, then pedalling. Pedalling furiously just to maintain your position, not to fall off the end of the conveyor belt of life. That seems to be the plan, just to keep us solely concentrated on paying this week's bills so that we don't raise our heads from our misery to contemplate what it is that's being done to us. And sadly, Ranjit, that's all the time that we have, unfortunately, because I am just past the news. But better luck next time. Perhaps you won't call other shows next time. 10:30 on LBC. The news headlines at 10:30 with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
You're trying to be funny because I'm all out of laughs.
There's absolutely nothing funny about it. Texts and tweets and such from last night. Couple more to go. Sean says, at least when we had Ken Livingstone, London functioned. If it's not too late, I will stand for mayor. I'm certain that I could rather do a better job than Ken's successors. Donna says, the government and the Bank of England contradict themselves over inflation. Sunak et al. Consistently tell us that the inflationary pressures are supply side, a lack of gas, oil, wheat, etc. on the markets because of the war in Ukraine. So using interest rates to suppress demand is futile, makes heaps of money for voters with savings without mortgages, coincidentally. Oh, and investment banks. Well, that is a good point. Yeah. Inflationary pressures are the cost of gas and oil and food because of the Ukraine thing and because of the COVID thing. And so increasing interest rates isn't going to affect that other than sending the prices of those things up. It's almost as though they're not telling us the truth. We can't handle the truth. 0345 6060 973. Erith. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Nick.
Steve.
Sorry.
Yes?
I was calling originally just one thing, and it's kind of turned into three, if that's okay.
Well, let's see how one goes, and, then we'll take it from there.
Well, one was a certain other radio station. I don't know if I should name it.
No.
But there's a lot of swearing on there, even during the day, with minor swear words.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, like when they do a book or a story, so it's pre-recorded, and you haven't got the...
Right.
And there'll be that major C word and things like that.
Yeah, I've heard that too. It's okay if it is on apparently, it's okay if it's on television, it's okay if it's in books, it's okay if it's in the cinema, it's okay if it's on the BBC radio, but it is not okay for commercial radio. You can't do it. It's against the law. Don't ask me why. It's just the way it is.
I just thought they may be sort of picking on certain presenters and the like, but okay, I cleared that one. And when I was speaking to your assistant,
yeah,
it coming from the about stumbling. It's
yes,
I've got to get this right. Sorry. Ranjit, because I don't want to get people in trouble.
But
when the nurses first strike, the first one they had all them months ago, I flicked through my old-fashioned radio, like with touch, not looking at it.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, right, it's time for what I want to listen to, which is your station. I flicked through, and I heard Ranjit's voice, and after half an hour, thinking must be a new presenter because I don't recognise this presenter. It turned out it wasn't even LBC.
So, he's calling another radio station. Oh my God!
Sorry, Ranjit.
Right. All right, a spy report. Excellent work there, Steve. Keep your ears peeled. Thanks a lot, mate. Can you keep your ears peeled? Not sure, but try it anyway, Steve. Don't peel your ears without getting a medical professional to supervise you. That's my best advice. This says, how do you keep eyes peeled? Never understood the expression. Who's writing this stuff? All right, just sort of random questions. How do you keep your eyes peeled? Well, you peel them. You know the skin on your eyes? Open them, and then they are peeled. Rob says, these are texts and tweets from today. Rob says, having spent 6 hours removing the safety guards from my roof, I turned to the rough direction of France and issued a vigorous two-fingered salute to the European Union. Unfortunately, I fell off the roof and have spent 7 hours in A&E waiting to see a doctor. Still, at least I don't have the EU telling me what to do. Good point there, Rob. That's the pain of freedom. Nothing makes sense in this world to me anymore. How about you? How about, let's see now. Where are we going to go now? Wigan. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello. How are you?
Yes, good, thanks.
I thought just comment a bit on this attempted coup. I mean, obviously it's a huge disappointment to the leader of Ukraine.
Oh, the coup in Russia. I thought you were talking about a coup here.
Well, there has been one, hasn't there? Because Boris Johnson's been kicked out. Yeah, thank goodness.
I wouldn't call that a coup, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, whatever you want to call it, the fact is he's been removed.
Yeah.
And he's not just no longer PM, he's no longer an MP.
Yeah, he bravely ran away.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as this attempted coup is concerned, clearly the guy in Ukraine was sounding off a bit overly confident, thinking it might succeed. And I think a lot of the...
Which guy in Ukraine?
Not the challenger to him, Kishko. The other guy, what's he called? I've forgotten. Zelensky, is it, or something? Yeah. I think Kishko's his challenger.
Who's Kishko?
Kishko's a former boxer who is also the mayor of Kiev. And apparently they don't get on, those two.
Right, I thought you were talking about the coup in Russia, the attempted coup in Russia. But
yes,
you're talking about the attempted coup in Ukraine.
That hasn't happened yet, but I believe it's possible. But the point is...
You believe what's possible?
That there will be a coup in Ukraine.
And what makes you think that?
Well, I can see that there are clear divisions within the regime. The fact that the mayor of Kiev clearly doesn't get on with Zelensky. From
really, I didn't know that. Where did you get that information from?
From the BBC, oddly enough, but that was a few weeks ago.
Right.
Now, today they've been purely talking about the attempted coup, or apparent attempted coup, because I don't think it really was that.
Right.
Was
Can I ask you a question, Malcolm?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard this show before?
Occasionally, yeah, I do.
Right. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
That answers that. I'm just curious as to why you called in with this, like, completely out of the blue. Had nothing to do with anything that we've been talking about, and it doesn't really sort of fit in. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it was just mentioned in your news programme that there, in the report on the hour, or the half hour, 10,
right,
that there has been this so-called attempted coup, and it was being covered in quite a few channels, and the assumption was that this was going to be deeply damaging to Russian President Vladimir Putin, whereas in fact I think it's more deeply damaging to Western media commentators who are getting a bit ahead of themselves, quite frankly.
Right, okay. Good work there, Malcolm. There's a man who's done his own research.
Oh, no.
He's available on a Facebook channel near you. Ahmed says, did you know that the anagram of Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson is, I'm a big fat liar, a coward, and I couldn't make a model bus in my spare time if my life depended on it? Well, that is actually factually correct. Cruciverbalists will attest to the accuracy of that anagram. There's some bizarre calls that I'm getting tonight. I mean, where was that last one from? Sticking up for Vlad the Insaner. I'm a little bit disappointed, by the way, that this, those two murdering psychopaths aren't actually going to slug it out. I mean, of course, they won't personally do that. They'll get kids to do it on their behalf. But really, I was hoping for a little bit more than that. He's been exiled to Belarus, and no doubt with a tank full of money. Was it really all about the money? Prigozhin abandons the march on Moscow and is going to be exiled to Belarus, wherever that is. Why would anybody want to do that? I thought he was getting ready for the big fight. Apparently not. Disappointed. Not that I would have expected him to be any better than rootin' tootin' shootin' Putin, but quite possibly even worse. I mean, he does appear to be an appalling human being. I think that is justifiably correct. Of course, that last bloke who just rang in, he might not have that opinion because, as I said, he's done his own research. Claire emails, why is Ben Habib always so angry? Yeah, I don't know. Ben Habib. Wasn't he the one that said, he wants to get all of these, he didn't use the phrase layabouts, but whenever a Tory person starts banging on about people on universal credit, then that's the noise that I hear in my mind. Doesn't matter what they're actually saying. All I'm hearing is layabouts. He wanted to get people on universal credit back into work. I think something of the order of 50-60% of the people on universal credit are already in work. We, poor dopes who pay taxes, are subsidising corporations who pay their workers so little that they have to have their wages supplemented by universal credit, which we pay for. It's socialism, but for corporations. That's okay. They like that socialism, but not when it benefits individuals. Their polling numbers stink, by the way, and they're getting worse. But, you know, Fishy he's all over it.
I am totally 100% on it.
Conservative support has fallen to its lowest level in more than 4 months. Wow. And it used to be a dismal 4 months ago, too. Voters are appearing to penalise the Prime Minister Fishy Sunak and his government for inflation and interest rates. Penalise him. Get Peter Tosh on the phone. He's going to have to re-record that song. Penalise him, yeah.
Rock and roll!
YouGov poll for The Times found that Tory support has fallen to 22%. Wow, 22%. That is a figure that has not been seen since Liz Truss's mini budget.
Absolutely.
It's 15%, apparently, of people think that the government is handling the economy well. 15%. That's down 4 points in 1 week. 15%. I mean, that is a low number. But it does make you wonder what's in the minds of the 15% that thinks everything's going well. I mean, did all 15% of them get £108 million deals to provide dodgy PPE? We're now less than 18 months from a general election, assuming that we're actually allowed to have another general election. And you know, if they outlaw any further elections for our safety, we wouldn't be able to protest about that because they've outlawed that too. And here's why Fishy keeps on about the small boats that he's pretending to care about. Conservative support actually increased after the government's small boats announcement. You know, when he said this.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focusing on stopping the boats. And I'm relentlessly focused on stopping the boats. That's one of my 5 priorities, stopping the boats. And I think people know that I'm working night and day to stop the boats. I firmly believe that that's what the country wants me to do. That's what the government is committed to doing. And we're working night and day to stop the boats. That's what the country wants us to focus on. And I will keep at it.
Yeah, he'll keep at it. He's gripping it.
I'm gripping it.
Stop the boats. It's his number one priority. Painful. And the reason he keeps going on and on and on and on and on about that, apart from that he can't think of anything else to say, he's got absolutely nothing else to sell to the country, is that Tory support increased just a little after the government's small boats announcement. I mean, that is the focus group coming good. That is. Just keep saying the same thing, Fishy, and you'll get the Clacton Massive on your side. But you know what? It's not working anymore. It's almost as though you can't fool just enough of the people for 13 years running. This week's poll has Labour on 47%. Blimey. 47% just for standing there and doing nothing. Good going there, Keir Starmer. There's a 25-point lead. The Liberal Democrats unchanged on 11% and the Greenies on 8%. You go, Greenies. Groovy. 8%. I can remember back when they used to be on the 2% party. 8% now. It's almost as though green issues are important. On the economy, 75% think the government is handling the country's finances badly. 31% would trust a Labour government led by Keir Starmer to run the economy, compared with 20% that chose Sunak and the Conservatives. 37%, though, said none of the above. No one. Let's just have the economy run itself for a little while. I mean, it couldn't possibly go any worse. And most ominously for the Tories, their little scheme to win the next election with tax cuts is looking like it's failed before they've even started. Asked to choose between reducing taxes and spending more on the NHS and other public services, only 33% of current Conservative supporters back tax cuts. Wow. Doomed. Because that's the rabbit they're going to pull out of the hat just before the next general election. They've already told us that. They keep saying the quiet part out loud, this lot. The current Chancellor of the Exchequer, his eyes so wide open, they look like his eyeballs are going to pop out of his head. What's wrong with his face? He told us that. We're going to cut taxes just before the next general election. And, you know, it doesn't matter whether we can afford them or not. All those affordability criteria that they keep banging on about, we can't have wage rises and we can't, give people a decent living and all the rest of that baloney that they keep coming out with. And we can't cut taxes until the economy is on a stable footing and blah, blah, blah. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Just before the next general election, in order to persuade us that they'll put money in our pockets. And the people seem to have got wise to that. Took a long time. But eventually the message got through. Tax cuts aren't for you and me. They're for the rich. Don't make no difference to us. It just means that if they cut taxes, then the government will be left with less money to spend on the things that actually matter to us. It took a while, but that message seems to have finally got through. Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
This show appears to be about a lot of people calling up with random thoughts about things that we haven't been speaking about and don't really fit in. That's what it appears to me so far. Let's carry on and see what we get next. 0345 6060 973. Cambridgeshire. Hello, Jay. Jay? Oh, Jay.
Good evening.
Good just evening. In time. Yes, sir.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, I wanted to speak regarding, remember that the caller said, about the savings account, taking money from the, from the employees and leaving that in the savings account.
Yeah.
I've got another idea.
Go on.
Take all that money, put it into cryptocurrency, like a Bitcoin.
No.
Okay? And then we'll create pump and dump. The price will go up, and we'll just sell it and make a profit.
Right.
What do you think?
I think that's a really bad idea. Let me think about that for more than a second.
No.
You know, it's a big no from me. And furthermore, no. Did I mention no?
No.
0345 6060 973. Crypto, no thanks. Katrina says, choose a... Oh, no, can't say that. That's really rude. I can't say that. Don't put stuff like that for me to read on the air. Jasmine says, no one is putting cat litter trays in school. Oh, okay. Do we want to talk about cat litter trays? Maybe after the hour I'll talk about that. I suspect the kids are joshing with the grown-ups and winning, by the way. John says there's the clip of Rishi Sunak boasting about diverting money from people in poor areas to people in wealthy areas. He is no man of the people. Yeah, that's right. They continue to say the quiet part out loud. He's speaking to, well, you've probably seen it, speaking to a garden party of Tories in some rich area. I can't remember exactly where it was. And he said, what the previous government was doing was funneling government money into areas that need it, with, a lot of poor people. And so we obviously had to change that, he said. And now we're funneling money into the area where you good, well-off people are living. Don't get fooled with those puppy dog eyes. He ain't no puppy. Like I said, it doesn't matter who the face is at the front of the stage. It could be this bloke.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
It could be this.
I'm genuinely unclear.
I mean, it could even be this bloke.
My view.
It doesn't make no difference who it is. The direction of travel remains the same. Alex says, Rishi Sunak, winner of the... No, I can't say that either. First time... stopped hiding under his desk today to answer questions regarding Russia. Is there anything he's capable of doing without sounding like a camp Cyberman from Doctor Who? Like a Cyberman.
Correct.
Yeah, but not an Arnold Schwarzenegger Cyberman. I do have something that is more appropriate, like this kind of Cyberman.
No one is ever safe on this hostile planet.
In fact, he wasn't a Cyberman, was he? This one.
Affirmative.
Yeah, a bit more like that. Waving his arms around, going, warning, warning. A camp Cyberman from Doctor Who. Spot on there, Alex. Alex will be drugged this evening and will wake up confused in a camp in Rwanda. Tom says, "Hi, Nick. This cost of living crisis is being deliberately caused by the WEF, the World Electric Foundation, which was the follow-up from the British Electric Foundation,
Rock and roll!
who had a lot of good material in the early 1980s, I believe. Sort of the same camp as Heaven 17 and the band that did Penthouse and Pavement, whatever that was. Penthouse and Pavement. Excellent, excellent album. But the British Electric Foundation, that was my favourite version of the Secret Life of Arabia, the Bowie song by Billy somebody. Anyway, the World Electric Foundation was the follow-up to the British Electric Foundation, unless you mean the World Economic Forum, in which case please disregard everything I've said on this matter. Tom says, the cost of living crisis is being deliberately caused by the WEF, preparing for their fourth industrial revolution, and Rishi Sunak is right at the centre of it. Yeah, another one of these conspiracy theorists, which implies that everything is going to plan. These people ain't got no plan. They're just stumbling from one chaotic event to the next. There is no overarching plan. That would mean that these people are competent. Do these people seem competent?
Absolutely.
Not. You know, these conspiracy theories about how the world is being run by, a shady group of 6 men in suits who make all the decisions. Does it imply that they know what they're doing? That this is all going perfectly to plan? These people have got no idea what they're doing. They're just like jackals, venally running around trying to feast on corpses. There is no plan. But anyway, 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. I do believe we're going to have to talk about cat litter trays at some point this evening. I can't wait.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
How are you?
Everything is going extremely well.
Yeah, that's right. Despite what you hear to the contrary, everything is going extremely well. Good grief, did he just say 31 degrees? Now, I have no idea what that is in proper temperature, but tomorrow in the middle of London it's going to be 88. Wow! 88 of His Majesty's Fahrenheit.
What?
Exactly. That doesn't sound like the kind of weather that you want to be schlepping around town in. And then it goes back down to the early 70s, which is a little bit more pleasant for a lot of people, I guess. So there's something called the World Athletic Federation or something like that. I don't really know. I was only half listening. And apparently we are now we're fourth behind Germany. But as far as inflation goes, we are number one. The inflation rate in Germany is 6.3%, but here it's 8.7%, which means we are the winners. Food inflation in the UK is rising at about 19%. Wow. That is just shocking, isn't it? You know, when they tell you that the inflation rate is 8.7%, they're lying about that. Because it might be 8.7% if you take everything into account, but what most people are spending their money on is they're putting a roof over their heads and then food. I mean, most people haven't got no money for anything else after that, right? And if food inflation is going up at about 19%, then inflation itself is not affecting people's lives at the rate of 8.7%. Just isn't. So for most of us, the inflation rate is way more than 8.7%. So that's putting a good sheen on it. But in the US, by the same measure, inflation is 2.7%, France 6%, Germany 6.3%, and here it's 8.7%. What could possibly have happened that differentiates us so much from our major competitors? Because it ain't COVID. Everybody had COVID. And it's not the war in Ukraine, because everybody has experienced that. I just can't think of what other major event that's happened here and only here that could have driven up inflation to such an extent, that could have brought so much misery. Can you? I mean, we could go through the alphabet and see if anything occurs to us. Is it something beginning with A? Something beginning with B, perhaps? I'll think about that. 0345 6060 973. Wembley. Hello, Lawrence.
Oh, yes. Good evening to you. Look, you've got no worries at all, Nick, if you've got a mortgage and you can't pay it, or if you can't pay your rent.
Yes.
Because Rishi, whatever it takes, Sunak says that he's totally 100% on it.
I am totally 100% on it.
And we'll get through it. We, the royal we.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of in World War II when London was being bombed in the East End, and people were trying to, and the fire brigade were there, and Churchill got out of his big limousine and said, "We can take it," and got back in, down the bunker, and had a three-course meal and a cigar.
Yeah, and sped away to Chartwell, where he threw all of his bills in the bin without paying them. Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to know from Rishi Sunak, what's he on? He says he's 100% on it. What's he on?
Yeah.
That's like, you know.
I think he's on about £100 million a year, something like that, Lawrence. He'll be just fine. Don't you worry about him.
Well, I mean, I looked at the rich list. What's he worth? 500 and something million, and
what's his wife worth? I mean,
what's his wife worth?
Assuming that they've actually met. Although, you know, when people ask him about the financial affairs of his wife, he starts to bristle like somebody's rubbed his fur up the wrong way. And then talks as though he has no knowledge of her financial affairs, like they've never even met. I mean, she is your wife. Thanks a lot, Lawrence. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Calais. Calais? Gary.
Pas de Calais. An hour and 20 minutes for the tunnel. Right, Nick.
Yes.
I did write to you, but apparently it didn't come to you. I sent a message about the Brexit forgotten. And those that are under 25. Those poor souls who are paying for the pensions, who voted to leave Europe, who are going to work all their lives and support me in 18 months' time. Yeah. I want to say thank you and I'm sorry. I did my bit.
Right.
All right, go on.
Well, don't you ever do it again.
I won't. I've got to tell you one thing, though.
Yeah.
This is last March, I had a heart attack. In France, so there was a hospital. And a good friend of mine, I've got to give his name out, that's George and Mary from Worthing. George told me to get onto LBC. So I have my first smartphone, and I downloaded LBC when I'm in intensive care. And you were the first person I ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you. And I've had a laugh ever since. And I have to say, there is the odd person that's had a couple of drinks.
Yes, yeah. They're both drunk and odd at the same time. Yes,
but it's nice. You're very good, and thank you.
Well,
and I truly do feel sorry for those poor sots under 25.
We are all right. Well, that's very nice of you, Gary, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Be well, be happy. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Ollie says, Sir Mogg could have been Prime Minister, but you leftists ruined it. You call him names and mock him every day, and now we've lost out on what would have been the greatest Prime Minister that this country has ever had. Such a shame.
My view...
Yeah, his view is similar. I would not be remotely surprised if they stuck him in the position next, because I don't think they're totally satisfied with the performance that Rishi is putting in. I mean, does anybody believe Rishi Sunak in that position?
No.
Is there one single person in this country that believes Rishi Sunak when he bangs on about the boats?
No.
No. I seriously doubt it. He's just not believable in that position. Too smooth, too comfortable, too unattached to what most people would describe as real life. Doesn't even know how to use a credit card, for crying out loud. How can anybody get to an adult stage and not know how to use a credit card? He just waved it in the air as though it was some sort of magic trick. His assistants hadn't told him how to use one. Never had to pay for anything. What an absolute shower. John says, I'm dismayed to hear that Fishy Sunak is using taxpayer money to try to stop the transportation into Britain of small goats. This Tory bias against goats in favour of sheep is, of course, the reason that sheep have overrun parts of Great Britain. Have you noticed how overly fond Tories are of sheep?
Absolutely.
Yes, I have, John. He's going to stop the goats.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
Stop the goats. It's the country's number one priority. Tim says, as someone who voted Brexit in 2016 and now regrets it, I ask Brexiters why they are still clinging to it and what they voted for. And there are no... okay, it's not entirely my fault because there's no punctuation here. He says, I ask Brexiters why they're still clinging to it, gripping it in other words.
I'm gripping it.
And what they voted for, and they start making funny noises and saying things like sovereignty and trade deals, and then they run away. Well, that's my favourite part, is, when they run away.
Bye-bye.
See you later. But not if I see you coming first. The reason that the Brexiters, who are still clinging to this this fantastical notion of sunlit uplands, the reason that they're still clinging to that is twofold. And I keep saying this over and over again, and nobody has come up with a contrary argument. First of all, it's loss of face. If they admit that they've been had, then it's loss of face. Too much loss of face. Because, not me, but other people might have, in the past, called them stupid. And that riles them a very considerable amount indeed. So they don't want to admit that they have been had, because that might, embolden their critics to call them stupid. So they can't. The other thing, which is the sad part, is that various con artists have persuaded them that a better life lies outside the European Union. They have provided them with hope that their life will get better. And to lose hope is even worse than to lose face. So there's two very, very strong reasons why those who voted Brexit refuse to admit that they have made a mistake, that Brexit was a con, that they were sold a lie by people who poured vast amounts of dodgy money, the origin of which we still don't know. But I have my suspicions. Probably the same people who got the peach powder puff president into his position.
Oh, shut up!
Which he would never admit to. But I think he had a lot of help. A lot of money came in to assist him.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
Yeah, sure you do, Donny. Sure you do. Your husband is going to jail, Melania.
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. 0345 6060 973. Luton. Hello, Austin.
I've got a good idea. Well, I'm glad there's no more goats coming in.
Yes.
But I've got a good idea.
Stop the goats.
Yep. And also, everybody buys a little model boat and they send it to Downing Street with a little flag on the bow that says Samog, so he can put them all in his pool, indoor pool, and watch them float around, and he can stop them anytime he likes.
That's a good idea, Austin. I'll pass that one along. Excellent work, that man. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, that's probably a very good idea. Make yourself a little model boat, send it to number 10 Downing Street. But before you do that, write on the side of it, stop this. You can text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Everything is going extremely well.
I don't usually have to deploy that one for like twice in the same show, but everything is going extremely well. It's a fact, even if it's not true. Pauline says, will interest rate hikes stop dividends being paid to Sunak and the Tory millionaires who likely have shares in banks and energy companies and arms manufacturing companies? Will huge dividends not stoke inflation? Says Pauline. Yes, Pauline. I expect that it bloomin' well will. They would say no. Millions of public sector workers face having pay rises of 6% blocked by the government amid what is described as mounting concerns that these pay rises would fuel inflation, which is very interesting because there's no evidence of that. Giving people on low wages a small bump in their salary won't make them go out and splurge on stuff they don't need and compete with each other for luxuries. They'll just about be able to pay the mortgage or the rent and eat, and that's it. It's not the people just about getting by that are causing inflation, because they haven't had a pay rise yet, and inflation is already near 9%, or about 19% for the thing that they spend most of their money on, food. So something has already caused inflation. And it's not the teachers and the nurses and the civil servants. So it must be the corporations that are profiteering. But the Tories aren't going to upset the donor class, so they're coming after you.
Oh, fabulous.
I mean, look what's happened to people's incomes since the caring Conservatives came to power in 2010. MPs' pay up 22% in real terms since 2010. 22% up. They've done very well. And they pull in cash doing second and third and fourth jobs, making the 87 grand plus £250,000 in expenses they coin in a year as a part-time job of being an MP, makes it look like pretty good going. So they're doing all right. And bankers, well, they're so happy they can hardly count. Their bonuses have gone up 101% in cash terms since 2008. Chief executive officers, up 23% in 1 year. In 2022 alone, CEOs' pay went up by 23%.
What?
Yeah. And the people who are being targeted to suffer the cost of Tory failure and the disaster that is Brexit are the ones that the Tories seem to have picked the class war with. Teachers and nurses. Teachers' pay since 2010, down 24%. Nurses' pay down 20% since 2010. MPs up 22%. So it's us poor dopes who pay taxes. You know.
The little people.
Not leprechauns. The little people have had a pay cut and are yet being blamed for causing inflation by asking for a pay rise that they haven't had yet. I mean, what?
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
The whole world has, in fact, gone crazy. I mean, it's basic maths. A pay rise can't cause inflation if it hasn't been awarded yet. But the Prime Minister has said that he is prepared to overrule independent pay review bodies. They keep hiding behind independent pay review bodies, saying that the independent pay review body has judged that this or that person in employment can or cannot get a pay rise. And then they sit on those decisions as they come in and are now planning to ignore them. You get nothing. Good day, sir. I mean, we already have the highest inflation in the world's top economies. Why don't the people who caused it take a pay cut? Pay review bodies have recommended that teachers should get 6.5% pay rise. Police officers, prison officers, junior doctors should get 6% or more, they say. And the government says that this is going to cost a 5 billion quid, or about 5% of the amount lost to fraud under Fishy Sunak's watch. But the 100 billion that's just disappeared into the air, well, there's nothing we can do about that. We just shrug our shoulders and go, oh, well, never mind. But they scrabble to save a couple of pennies here and there by making teachers and nurses suffer. Because if they didn't suffer, then that would cause inflation. But as inflation already exists, and they haven't had a pay rise, that don't make no sense to me. I mean, maybe Fishy Sunak would like to get back the money that the party gave to their friends and relatives and donors for PPE that didn't work or didn't arrive. Would that be completely out of the question?
Yes.
Good to know. I mean, it's reported that the government overruled pay review bodies, and that could lead to further confrontation with the unions. So says the Times, which a cynic would suggest is exactly the plan. That is precisely what the government wants. It needs constant conflict to stay alive, like a shark needs to keep moving. So it's picking fights with migrants and the woke, whatever that means on any given day, and it picks fights with the European Union and Remainers who've been proven right about everything. And it fights with the train drivers and the nurses and the doctors and the civil servants and the teachers, and the list just gets bigger and bigger as their poll ratings get lower and lower. And they scrabble to keep hold of the rope of discord that the regime imagines is going to help them win the next general election. You remember Margaret Thatcher, their hero, famously quoted Francis of Assisi when she won the election in 1979? She said, "Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth." Shall I keep doing the voice? Is it even close?
No.
She says, she said, "Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope." That's what Thatcher said in 1979. Their hero. Well, this regime seems to have read that backwards. It's more like, where there is harmony, may we bring discord. Where there is truth, may we bring error. Where there is faith, may we bring doubt. Where there is hope, may we bring despair. I mean, they're less Ronald Reagan, more Donald Trump.
Oh, shut up!
They spout on about Thatcher as though she would approve of what this lot have been doing the past 13 years. I mean, I'm no expert, but I bet Margaret Thatcher wouldn't recognise the Tory party now from the one that she led. And I bet she'd fire every single one of them. Ain't that right, Smug?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
And Fishy Sunak popped off to an IKEA company, an IKEA warehouse, one of their shops. IKEA. Who's he kidding? I bet his houses would spit a piece of IKEA furniture out the front door like a body rejects poison. And he did his Down with the Peeps act. You know, gave the workers his best, "I get it, I feel your pain" routine, which is as believable as him knowing how to use a credit card. And he had the nerve to kid on that he understood what it's like to earn minimum wage with no hope of anything else for the rest of your life. "I'm on it," he said.
I am totally 100% on it.
"Everything's going to be fine," he said. "I've got a plan," he said. What's the plan, Rishi? No idea. I mean, he took his jacket off to appear more, approachable? Approach the Prime Minister at your peril. But he said in one, he brought all this forth in one of his cute little shirts with his skinny little tie, and he did his best hurt puppy dog eyes. Isn't he an absolute dream? And he was asked at a summit of chief executive officers where he feels more comfortable. He was asked at a summit of CEOs about pay recommendations, and he said wage settlements need to be fair, but they need to be affordable and responsible too. To a room full of CEOs, he said wages for the little people, not leprechauns, must be affordable. I mean, it really is gaslighting on steroids, ain't it? I didn't know, so I looked it up. I actually did homework. Can you believe that?
No.
Woo!
Average FTSE 100 CEO remuneration, £4.3 million a year.
What?
4.3 million a year. Plus bonuses, plus stock options, plus housing allowance, plus private healthcare, plus gym membership, plus first-class travel, plus. You know, but they're the donor class, which is where the Tory party gets its funding, when it's not got its cap out begging for rubles. So CEO pay is fine. Very good value for money, regardless of whether the companies fail on their watch or not. It doesn't really seem to make any difference. And they get remuneration, big word, to denote big sums. You get pay, small word, small sums. And we're led to believe that only the small sums are causing inflation. And if you think that makes sense, I have a genuine Casio digital watch, as worn by Napoleon, that I'd like to sell you. 0345 6060 973. Let's have a call in Cornwall. Malcolm.
Sorry, Nick. Hello.
Just in time. Go ahead.
Nick, well, I had a couple of three things, Nick, but you just used one of them up. The IKEA trip.
Yeah.
Where he was on it, gripping it.
Mm-hmm.
And he inquired about the meatballs, would you believe? For his lunch.
He did not have lunch of IKEA meatballs.
He did? Well, no, he asked about it.
Yeah.
I think he was hoping for some because it's a regular item on his menu.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah, one of his people told him about that and requested that he asked about the meatballs in order to make him appear normal. How's that working out, by the way?
Fabulous.
Well, he tried to buy a can of Coke with a flashcard. Yeah, when you hold over the box.
The boop and go card. Yeah. Boop.
Can you imagine him trying to assemble a set of Billy shells?
I couldn't imagine him trying to open a can of Coke. Did he have one of his people do it for him?
Yeah. Well, look. So I go on to one of my other things, Nick. And it's trickle-up economics, which is here with a vengeance.
Yep.
So we've got the poor working people of Britain who are going to be reckless with all the money they've got.
Yes.
They're going to spend, which will force prices up. So the government, along with the banks, are engineering a scenario where the banks take that money off them to save them from themselves.
Yes, that's right.
It's also fortuitous that money will be well spent and cared for.
Well, if it's going to the banks, they'll spend it wisely on cocaine and hookers, no doubt.
Well, it wasn't so long ago that they lifted the ban on bankers' bonuses. So now you're going to have all of that extra interest, which is going to beef up the bankers' bonuses.
Correct.
So they will all be going home with suitcases full of money, I suspect.
Yeah, they'll wave to us from the poop deck of their solid gold yachts. Malcolm, I'm going to have to go. Sorry about that. Past the news. 0345 6060 973. Just past 11:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
You're joking.
0345 6060 973. Andrew texts, just check, Nick, £42.71 extra money in my banana Nesquik tub. I'm going to be okay. Phew, says Andrew. Andrew, that is ridiculous that you drink banana Nesquik. Why would anybody drink banana Nesquik when chocolate Nesquik is available on the very same shelf? Although, if I was ransacking your house and I was in need of for sustenance, then the last place I would go is the banana Nesquik tub. I mean, if you had chocolate Nesquik, then I'd be straight for it, and I'd find that it's where you keep your cash. So smart thinking, that man. Lizzie says, employers saving for us. Wow, what an insult to our own capabilities. No, I think you missed the point there, Lizzie. But it was a point right at the beginning of this show, and I can't remember precisely what it was, and I'm certainly not going to go back and look, because that would involve homework. But if you wish to listen to this or yesterday's show, then we do stick them up the internet as a podcast. It's only available on Global Player. We take the news and most of the ads out, mostly. And we put them up on the internet as a podcast. If you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, then the magic phrase is play Nick Abbott, the whole show podcast. It's only on Global Player. If you're going to play it on your PC or your device, then you'll need Global Player. It's free. Get it from your app store or go to globalplayer.com. And if you just do an internet search on my name, Nick Abbott Podcasts, then all three that I do will come up as though by magic. Let's have a call in Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Hi, good evening, Nick.
Yes, Jan.
Yes, earlier you mentioned something, and it sort of it echoed with something I was. Anyway, you said something, but I don't know in what were you referring to when you said something about that people were happy to die in a patriotic British way. I don't know what you said it in relation to, but I'm picking up on that point.
We were talking about the nice lady on Question Time who voted to leave the European Union because in this country we have health and safety for people who go up on roofs, whereas in France and Germany they don't. And that upset her to such an extent that she demanded to leave the European Union straight away.
Well, I'm picking up on that and how it got caught out, how it got used on a parallel course of reality and sort of wanting to think of a patriotic thing behind.
You do know that nothing you've said so far makes any sense. Are you aware of that? All I've heard so far is... Go ahead.
I'm trying to lead into something because about that submarine, that sub thing that's imploded.
Yes.
Is that it was in one way. I mean, I read. I don't know if you've seen that article that Boris Johnson, the rhetoric behind his article has nothing to do with reality of what happened, because he's talking about how they died for a cause, pushing out the frontiers of human knowledge, and how it's something to be proud about. But yeah, there is that the whole business of Britain wanting to be being great again, and
they were going down to look at a crash site.
Yeah,
there was no scientific basis for it whatsoever. That boat has been picked over ever since it went down. They weren't doing anything of scientific merit, unless I've got that completely wrong, in which case I apologise. I'm not saying that it wasn't an awful thing, but worse things happened at sea in the same week that didn't get anything close to the kind of coverage that did.
But I was picking up on the point about how rhetoric can go on a total parallel course, political rhetoric or whatever, on a total parallel course to a path to what is actually real, because that thing imploded because it was actually built. It was built very riskily.
We don't know. I'm not going to.
No, they do. They know because it's all
okay,
out.
All right. But what's your point, Jan?
Yeah, it's all. Well, the point is that
the Daily Mail shouldn't have spent all that money on giving Boris Johnson a column, because so far, I'm underwhelmed. His first column was about how fat he is, and his second column was a tower of piffle about rich people doing a recce on the Titanic, trying to kid on that it was scientifically valuable research that they were doing. If I was the person who had signed that contract to bring him in as a writer, I'd be pulling my hair out. But anyway, Jan, it's not really a subject I want to talk about. I talked about it yesterday. Not anymore. But thanks for that, whatever that was. Kath says, so the only way that Fabricant could get that thing off his head would be... would be to blow it out the airlock. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those alien face suckers. It just got drunk and couldn't find its way to the front of his face. So it's gripping the top of his head. It's gripping it.
I'm gripping it.
He's gripping it too. Oh, talking about that kind of thing. Here's an example of what climate change is going to do to this country. The effect of climate change coming to a location near you.
Oh,
no. Or if you've done your own research, there is no such thing as climate change, so nothing to worry about. So this is in the Mail today. Aside from regular flies and now mosquitoes, there is a flying horror that Brits should be worried about this summer. Experts have warned of a rise of Dracula horseflies, which are immune to most insect repellents. What kind of an insect is immune to insect repellents? Seen generally in Mediterranean countries, the mix of hot weather and sudden downpours in Britain so far this summer have proved the perfect breeding ground for these silent bloodsuckers. They can spread dangerous infections and cause painful bites, posing a potentially serious threat to public safety. But it's okay, the government said there's nothing to worry about. Female vampire horseflies feed off blood, leading to infections and painful swelling that may not be fully treatable with current antibiotics. Vampire horsefly bites generally take longer to heal compared to most other insect bites and have a high risk of becoming infected. Other effects of vampire horsefly bites include, but are not limited to, swelling of limbs, dizziness, shortage of breath, and death.
Oh, no.
Actual death. Victims can go into anaphylactic shock and may find their throat swelling, meaning that they can't breathe no more. And most people react very poorly when they can't breathe anymore. The Pest Control Association has put the horsefly on its top bites to avoid list, along with those from the black widow spider and mosquitoes. It says, literally designed to eat a horse, their bite is both impressive and painful. The horse fly is sanguivorous, as in, I imagine it drinks blood. And therefore, it wants to bite you. They can persistently chase you at a flying speed of around 15 miles an hour. Can you run faster than 15 miles an hour?
No.
It can also bite right through clothes.
What?
It has mandibles that can rip and tear flesh apart. Good grief. It is a xenomorph with concentrated acid for blood, and they mostly come out at night. Mostly. I say we blast off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. 0345 6060 973. I think we're due another Alien film around about now, aren't we? I mean, that franchise got really sort of stretched out after about the third episode. The third one was the penal colony. The penal colony. Penal colony. The third one was the penal colony. And that was rubbish. And then I think the one after that wasn't that good either. But then Ridley Scott got back involved and they sort of rebooted the entire thing. And the last couple have been great. So I think we're due for another one now. Any time soon would be just fine by me. 0345 6060 973. Walton-on-Thames. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, is that Nick? Have you stopped rambling on about films now? I didn't.
Rambling. That's a really good way to start, Stephen. He's been waiting 31 minutes and he starts with an insult. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Some nobody.
0345 6060 973. Ed says, Michael Fabricant is actually a prime example of Schrodinger's hairpiece. What, you mean, is it alive or not alive? Nobody has any idea. You won't know until you open the box. Don't open the box. But to be fair, it does look like an accident in a radiation experiment. That part is true. Good point, Ed. Well spotted. Red Hill. Hello, Nigel.
Good evening, Nick. I said to your sister a few minutes ago about the sewage in the rivers.
Oh.
Now they in the spread, and in range it said we could be cold. Then you said about the horse flies, right, and mosquitoes, and they're going to spread a plague, unfortunately, right down this country. And a really horrible, morbid thing, I hate to say, what's going to stop the boats is the plague. that is really gruesome. What these people have done. Do you understand what I'm saying? And
Not really.
I was on it before you mentioned. I've seen them horse rides at Epsom Derby about 10 years ago, and they run to water. You can see the rifles coming at you, and you have to leg it, honestly. And if those things have been in this sewage with the mosquitoes, and they're going to spread bacteria, you name it, whatever it is, we're going to be wiped out. And it's going to stop the boats. Do they realise what they've done? Do they honestly know what they've done?
Right. So by allowing death and disease to run amongst the population of Great Britain, by that method, we will stop the boats because nobody will want to come here no more.
Well, imagine the swarm of them going across the English Channel. That is really morbid. Do you know what I mean? I hate to say that, but
yeah.
And people in this country as well. You know, I mean, they go in the sewage, these mosquitoes and all sorts and everything, and they're carrying this stuff. E. coli, I don't know what's in there. Oh, I hate to think what's in there.
Awful.
Awful.
Well, I mean, if you live in sewage, you're probably not going to come out that clean, even if you are, very particular about washing all 6 of your legs.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes. Well, we just hope we have some more, I don't know, rain.
Yeah.
On the mosquitoes or something.
Yeah, I don't think rain is going to put them off. So, you ever get bit by one of them horse flies?
No, mate. I got the keys of my mate's motor, and I got in the motor, and these girls screaming, and I'm not joking. Yeah, they was running and screaming.
Yeah.
Honestly, I see them coming. I could see them coming. So I moved it. I said, "Give me the keys." I got in his motor. No, I didn't get bitten by one.
Right.
And the girls running and screaming. I see them. This is about 10 years back.
I'd be running and screaming too. I mean, I come up in giant welts just from mosquito bite. Can you imagine if one of those things? I'd be just this huge blister with a head on top.
Yeah, I was on the camping thing a while ago, and they said, "Look at Nigel." They said it looked like I've been in the round with Mike Tyson. You know, just been bitten by mosquitoes. You know, maybe they've been in the sewage. What are they going to do then?
Right, you seem obsessed with the sewage, Nigel, with good reason, because there's a lot of it about.
Yeah, but I mean, it's diabolical, isn't it? I mean, I know years ago that the Thames, there used to be fish in the River Thames.
Yeah.
And, not obsessed with sewage. It shouldn't be allowed, should it?
No, you'd have to be out of your mind to pull a fish out of if such a thing even exists anymore. That whole sewage issue is one of the things it's going to do for this government, and quite right too. We're the only country in the world that sold our water. I mean, just let that sink in for a moment. There really isn't anything else to sell. They really have stripped this country for parts. If they have sold our water, I mean, that really is last on the list, isn't it? What else have we got? There ain't nothing. We sold everything we have for strangers' short-term profit, many of whom don't actually live here. And when water has been sold, then what else have you actually got? The car is up on bricks, the wheels have gone, somebody's nicked the seats, they've pulled the velour off the inside of the roof. There is nothing left. And this sewage thing, it seems to get worse every day. And Fergal Sharkey, excellent work, that man.
Rock and roll!
I like your work on water just as much as I like your work with the old rock and roll. A senior executive at a water company responsible for spilling sewage along a stretch of the Lancashire coast has blamed the rain for causing the problems.
Fabulous.
He explained that it was the rain that gave £300 million to the shareholders of that water company, when the rain could have spent that money on upgrading the infrastructure that would have prevented that sewage spill. Very bad rain. No! It's Blackpool. But it's okay, because Blackpool isn't known for its beach. Visitors to Blackpool Beach and surrounding areas have been advised not to swim or enter the water this last week. That's along 14 miles of coast, after large quantities of sewage were released into the sea. Mark Garth, the director of United Utilities Wastewater Services, said the spill was caused by a broken pipe at a sewage treatment plant, coupled with excess rain. Too much rain. The rain knew full well how much rain was appropriate, and it ignored the limit, providing an excess of rain. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that the water company, along with all of the others that are running our water and sewage in this country, have gifted over £65 billion to their shareholders since privatisation. That is £65 billion, which is money that could have been used to give us the world's best water companies, providing the world's best services at world-beating prices. Instead, it's gone to making the already super-rich even richer. Making the already super-rich even richer is Fishy Sunak's #1 priority.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities. The people's priorities.
It's the people's priorities. The Environment Agency has launched an investigation into the incident. Oh, well, it's okay, everyone. The Environment Agency has launched an investigation.
Oh, fabulous.
That is the same Environment Agency that reports to the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, headed by Therese Coffin.
Oh, no.
Yes. We're doomed. But to be fair, Therese Coffin might know very little about the environment, and she might not know about rural affairs, but she certainly knows a lot about food. A spokesmodel for the water company that's just paid £300 million to shareholders and throws its hands up in defeat when it comes to stopping sewage flowing on beaches said, "We're really concerned about any dumping of sewage into any watercourse, including the sea, which is why we've been working so hard to fix this pipe. Not allowing sewage spills is their #1 priority." Which is why, in 2015, that company was fined £750,000 after spilling 7 million litres of sewage into the Duddon estuary. And that was after being fined £400,000 for polluting the area around its sewage works site in Stockport, which was some years after they were fined £170,000 after releasing untreated sewage into the River Mersey. And incredibly, they are apparently one of the better performing water companies.
What?
According to the Environment Agency, United Utilities has a 4-star EPA rating, Environmental Performance Assessment, which is the highest possible rank. Only 2 of the other national water companies have been awarded the same rating. They're as good as it gets. And yet the boss of United Utilities said that it was not known how much sewage had been spilled into the water because the company does not measure volumes. I mean, perhaps numbers don't go up that far. Let's ask a numbers expert. How much hot sewage in litres, Zaphod?
And 1.
More?
2.
More than that.
6 million.
Yeah, probably more than that. And the boss of that water company said that he would be happy for his family to swim at Blackpool in the future, but added that current advice was to stay out of the water. Yeah, in future. Date unspecified. Let's assume never. Shall we assume never? United Utilities was responsible for around 1/5 of all sewage spills into English waters last year, accounting for around 69,000 spills, according to data from the Environment Agency, who gave them a top rank of 4 out of 4 stars. 69,000 spills. Apparently, water companies are allowed to divert sewage into rivers or the sea when their systems are overwhelmed, in order to prevent the super-rich who own the companies from missing out on their dividends. It's all about the money, honey. And who are they, these owners? Well, They're asset managers. They're the people who make the money from the money of the world's richest people, who use it to buy the yachts that sail on the waters that turn their hulls brown.
Disgusting.
Ain't it just?
I think it's disgusting. I really think it's disgusting. I think something should be done about it.
Something should be done about it. 0345 6060 973. Sally says, I was in Beaumaris on Anglesey some years ago, and there was some event going on in the harbour. People were coming from the town, and I noticed that I couldn't understand what they were all saying to each other. They were speaking a foreign language. Oh, hang on a minute. I was speaking a foreign language. They were just speaking Welsh, says Sally. And Lee says, dodgy roofer to Clacton-on-Sea lady. It's 1,500 quid, darling. That's a bit steep for a roof tile. It's because we're in the common market, love. Health and safety, helmets and harnesses, red tape. It all adds up. Now, if we weren't in the common market, I could have done it for 30 nicker, says Lee. Well, if only you'd told her that first, Lee. If only you'd made that deal public knowledge, we would still be in the European Union. Think of that. Thanks a lot, Lee. See what you've done? 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
I enjoy working with people.
Yes, I most certainly do. You know, if Guns N' Roses covered most people's songs, you would think that the Guns N' Roses version would rock the most.
Rock and roll!
But it just doesn't. Not with Live and Let Die. There was a compilation came out a little while ago called The Singles, Paul McCartney, The Singles. And it's just so... It really is extraordinary to flip through it and hear how diverse his output is. I mean, it's just extraordinary. He seems to be able to pull tunes that people from all generations, on all continents, almost immediately take to their hearts. And there's practically nobody else that's been able to do that. I mean, the Rolling Stones, massively popular. Do your grandparents like the Rolling Stones? Probably not. Do they like the Beatles? Absolutely. And kids like the Beatles? Hip-hop stars like the Beatles? Country stars like the Beatles? People from America and India and Africa and Australia and here, there and everywhere, baby. They all like the Beatles. There really isn't anyone else, and specifically Paul McCartney. And if you listen to Live and Let Die on a good system, the way it builds, it just makes it made me laugh out loud. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It just becomes absolutely colossal. It's like being assaulted by music. And then the next track on the album will be Moon... What's it called? Moon... Ding, ding, Moonbeam, are we Moonbeam, or whatever that tune is, which sounded like him and his kids just strumming away at their kitchen table. From an orchestra which sounded like it had got 200 people in it, to the simplest tune in and both from the brain of the same bloke. Amazing. There really isn't anybody like him. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Regent's Park. Hello, Vance. Vance. Oh, Vance. too late. Let's have Woolwich. Richard.
Oh, hi, Nick. Orgasmic is the word you were looking for, I think.
In relation to what?
The music, the kind of building, kind of crescendo stuff.
Orgiastic, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Mick, I was gripped today, and I was gripped by the kind of Wagnerian advance.
Yeah. Me too.
Of this kind of going up the kind of Russian M4. And it's like watching a blockbuster, and you think it's going to be, lots of kind of amazing kind of denouement and guns and
pyrotechnics. Yes.
And then it's sort of, I don't know, there's a big bag of money, and it's kind of gone nowhere.
Well, I wonder if money was involved, because nothing else makes any sense. I mean, it's hard to know why anybody with billions of pounds in the bank would be yearning for more, but apparently that is what billionaires do. They think of nothing but adding to the vast amounts of money that's so large that they'll never be able to spend them anyway. I don't get it. But if Rootin' Tootin' didn't offer, what's his name, Prigorage, or whatever his name is, if he didn't offer him a ton of money to just go away and leave him alone, then I'd be most surprised.
Yeah, exactly. But can you imagine a kind of, I don't know, paying 50 quid to go to the Royal Opera House and see a Wagnerian opera, and it's all building up to something, and then they just kind of give a bunch of money, and it all kind of like, everyone goes home.
Everybody just, the orchestra stands up and leaves, yeah.
But wasn't there something like 30 million quid that they found in his office? How can you stash 30 million quid away in your office? I found that really bizarre, story.
It would have to be a very, very big office with another big office attached.
Well, quite. And so do you think, I mean, we're just like, this is like scenario thinking, but do you think that Putin is actually, that he confiscated that money? And he said, you go to Belarus, have a quiet life, and you can have that 30 million quid back. I don't know.
I think that, no, this Prigozhin, whatever his name is he's a billionaire. 30 million quid is neither here nor there to him. He's made billions.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Oh, no,
right.
fabulously rich. And if I were him, I would never eat or drink anything again for the rest of my life. Nor would I touch any door handles. I would live in one of those Zumba balls. You know, those plastic balls that you get in that you can bounce down a hill in? I would live in one of those for the rest of my life. Just, don't nil by mouth from now on. All right, thanks a lot, Richard. 0345 6060 973. That was really bizarre, that whole issue. Wagner coup fails. I mean, some scary individuals are being involved here. Just awful, awful people. Some of the worst individuals that have ever existed. And it's difficult to know who you'd want to win. You would actually want to see them both pummel each other to a standstill. Neither winning would be a good result for the rest of the world. Prigozhin abandoned the march on Moscow and is going to be exiled to Belarus. I mean, I've got no idea what Belarus is like, but I assume not that great. That's my assumption. Now, just because it's not true doesn't mean to say it's not a fact. But I'm sure that giant pile of money that he'll have to take with him will, cushion the blow somewhat. Very, very strange. I mean, I assume that it's money that is involved, because if Vladimir Putin's got no end of money, no doubt about that. Di says, The Mirror reported on the 10th of May 2010 that Tory MP Michael Fabricant has finally admitted that some of his trademark blonde hair is enhanced. Well, what does that mean? Enhanced? What, with shellac? Has he plasticised it? Enhanced? Jay says, or Jax rather, says, Fabricant defo wears a wig. I'm a wig maker and this is an off-the-peg shop-bought cheap nylon. And if I could do anything, I'd like to come up behind him and pull it off. It can't possibly be a wig. I mean, the man earns a good deal. Nobody would make a wig that looks that bad, and certainly nobody who has got a fiver would buy one. It can't be a wig. It must be his hair. But I don't know what it is that he puts in his hair to make it look like that. Joe says, hey, good news. Tomorrow is only 6 months to Jesus' birthday. That's not good news, Joe. And neither is it good news that the evenings are drawing in. They're drawing in already. I mean, we won't notice for another month or so. But when we notice, it will come as painful news. Simon says, just to say, I am an elderly ferret breeder and have been providing hairpieces for the Fabricants and Johnsons for many years now upon royal appointment. I don't believe that either person uses a hairpiece. Kath says, I agree with you that health and safety wasn't a thing in the 1980s. I was born in 1980 and I'm the youngest of 5. When I was a young kid, my mum drove an orange Avenger and she... Orange? So she bought it in the 1970s, you mean? When I was a young kid, my mum drove an orange Avenger and she squeezed me and my 4 siblings in by putting me in the front passenger seat footwell. Blimey. Yeah, it is extraordinary, the things that we used to do before health and safety came along and saved our lives. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Darryl said, when Putin's tanks pitch up in Calais, I bet those small rubber boats will be full of Europeans, refugees fleeing war or conscription. Yeah, well, if I was in there, I'd be fleeing too. Rebecca says, did you hear that Dish's interview with Laura Kuenssberg earlier today? No, I didn't. He really can't answer a question with anything that has... Shall I start again?
No.
It's perfectly simple. Why can't I read it? Rebecca says, did you hear Dish's interview with Laura Kuenssberg earlier today? No. He literally can't answer a question with anything but what's been prepared for him to say. This is what represents us in the world, and he can't even come up with variations on a theme by himself. He ain't no Elgar. Well, that is correct. He is painful. He's just very bad at the job that he is in. He may be good at other things. I have no idea. Let's assume that he's good at least one other thing. But he is not believable in his current role. He just comes across like a Dalek. How did somebody put it earlier on? Like a camp Cyberman out of Doctor Who. Very, very robotic.
Affirmative.
He is. He's like one of those toys that you used to have as a kid with a string coming out the back, and you pulled it and it said one of 10 different things. Except he only says one thing.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focusing on stopping the boats. And I'm relentlessly focused on stopping the boats. That's one of my 5 priorities, stopping the boats. And I think people know that I'm working night and day to stop the boats. I firmly believe that that's what the country wants me to do. That's what the government is committed to doing, and we're working night and day to stop the boats. That's what the country wants us to focus on, and I will keep at it.
You know, that recording was from an interview that he did with, I think it may have been Laura Kuenssberg. And those clips that I pulled from that was an interview that lasted maybe 5 minutes. And he said that many times. None of that's repeated. They were all said in the space of about 5 minutes in answer to all sorts of different questions, and he just kept coming up with that over and over and over again. He is abysmal at this job. Just not believable. Like cringingly embarrassing. My toes are curling right now. The wrong way. 0345 6060 973. Have I talked about the cats yet? We're running out of time. All right, I'll try and squeeze it in. Hang on one moment.
This is LBC. Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
All right, let's talk about cats then, shall we? Why not? It's just where to start is the thing, because I have detailed files. I've got no end of it. All right, let's start here. It's a very good place to start. Let's start at the very beginning. Head teachers should intervene to stop children identifying as cats, horses, moons... moons. moons. Or other neo-genders, Downing Street has said. A spokesman for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, then that is never going to sound right. He's the Prime Minister, can you believe that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and she used to be as well. For a brief time, but not brief enough. A spokesman for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that it is not right for children to be influenced by the personal views of teachers when it comes to transgender issues, unless those personal views correspond with those of the regime, and then it's perfectly fine, go ahead. This was in response to news that schools are allowing children to identify as cats, horses and dinosaurs, and teachers are failing to question them. Dinosaurs. You should only be able to identify as a dinosaur if you can spell the name of the dinosaur you are identifying with. Brachiosaurus, anybody?
No.
No, I didn't think so. Micropachycephalosaurus? Anyone?
No.
Kids, you can't all be T-Rexes, you know. Earlier this week, His Majesty's Daily Telegraph revealed that a 13-year-old girl at Rye College in East Sussex had been branded despicable by her teacher for rejecting her classmates' claim that she identified as a cat. Now further stories are emerging of pupils who identify as animals with very human characteristics, often known as furries. At a state secondary school in Wales, one student is said to meow when asked questions by a teacher rather than answering in English. In other schools, one apparently insists on being addressed as a dinosaur. One claims to identify as a horse, while another is said to wear a cape and demands to be acknowledged as a moon. Well, that's wrong. Moons don't wear capes. 2 Year 8 pupils at Rye College in East Sussex were ordered to stay behind in class after clashing with their classmate who identifies as a cat. Earlier this year, it emerged that the Safer Schools Safeguarding Organisation had issued guidance for parents and teachers on how to support furries. I just think that the kids are playing with adults. Really? Aren't you? I mean, there's always something that comes along that freaks adults out because they don't understand it, and the kids love it. This just looks like that to me. A series of observations about furries include reassurances that it is in no way unusual for pupils to want to do this. It's normal for young people to express themselves through dressing up, says this Safer Schools Safeguarding Organisation. Yeah, but dressing up is one thing. Claiming that you're a dinosaur is another, or that you're a moon. How the hell do you dress as a moon, by the way? The post on the organisation's website explains how members of the furry community like to take on the persona of an animal, a fursona, and interact with other like-minded fursonas by chatting and in acts of role-play and take on the personality and physical attributes of their chosen animal. Conventions are held around the world where these like-minded people can meet up in their alter animal ego. Unconventional conventionalists, I suspect. And the stories has been they've been broadcast and written up here, there, and everywhere, baby. And they always reference this Catherine Burblesing, and they reference her as follows: Britain's strictest head teacher. Always, as though there's been some sort of competition, and she's been awarded top prize. Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher, said children allowed to self-identify as animals, moons and holograms should be moved to another school by their parents. And I don't know what's more ridiculous, that a child is identifying as a moon or a grown-up is identifying as Britain's strictest head teacher. Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher, said she was aware of a child at one school who identified as a gay male hologram. What does that mean? And at least one school where a group of students identified as cats. She claimed the issue was widespread, but that people were unaware because teachers are not allowed to tell you. Yeah, it's a secret. You'll only guess when your child comes home dressed as an orbiting satellite and affects the tide with their gravity. Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher, said she has no pupils identifying as animals at her school. Well, I bet she doesn't, because she's Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher. Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher, says parents should act quickly if schools tolerated children wanting to be recognised as animals. You'll spot them if a pupil asks for kitty cat instead of a Kit Kat. She told The Telegraph, "As a society, we've lost our way," says Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher. Teachers and parents have allowed children to lead the way with adult authority completely dissolved, she said. Really? Well, that's odd. You know, what with the example of a responsible adult authority being so well publicised and all that. Earlier this week, Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest head teacher, tweeted, "Some weeks ago, I gave this speech at the NatCon conference." You remember that NatC rally? She said, "I spoke of children identifying as cats. I was told on Twitter many times that I was lying. Now everyone can see that what I was saying was true." Yeah, right. I seriously doubt it, but if it is, it's true for a minority of children so small you would need a magnifying glass to spot them. You'd have to be really, really searching hard to come up with one example, I bet. But, you know, that one example will be used to put fear in the hearts of parents, and they'll want a crackdown. And we can all blame the teachers for being radical and lefty, activist, bearded, woke hippies, and give them a damn good thrashing. Metaphorically, of course. And then there's the litter trays in school. And I'll get to that in a minute. God, the stuff you see. Unbelievable, isn't it? 0345 6060 973. Here, have I done the break yet?
Yes.
I have. I am well ahead of schedule. I'm doing particularly well. Let's have Carnforth. Hey, Penny.
Hey up, Nick. How you doing?
Great, mate.
Good. Well, it's a strange thing, you know, Nick, but I've been identifying as a cat mother all my adult life.
Is that
I have
right?
2 cat children. Yeah, I do. One is on the bottom of my bed right as I speak.
An actual cat?
An actual cat,
right.
Yeah. No, that's not what I rang you up about. I rang you up about United Utilities and how shockingly awful they are, because they're our water company.
They, I think they're a 4-star company. That is 4 out of 4 stars. It is as good as it gets in this country.
Well, God help the rest of the country, then. That's all I could say. It's pretty awful they are. They've been putting loads of sewage into Windermere, would you believe? And if it doesn't, you know, if the sewage doesn't get you, the green algae will these days.
Well, it's not like Windermere is a tourist destination or anything.
No, it's not. So, you know, it's just what the tourist industry needs, really. A lake full of sewage and green algae. I wouldn't swim in it if... Well, not that I can swim in anywhere at the moment, but I absolutely
I wouldn't even go on a
it.
boat on it. I mean,
no.
or anywhere near the shore, because the wind whips up the water into droplets. So if you're by the shore and the wind is coming off the water, be it the river or a lake or the sea, then it is going to cover you in diluted sewage.
Quite disgusting and absolutely outrageous. And wasn't it strange, you know, there used to be an organisation, Nick, that used to protect us from all this until recently, fairly recently. And all those people who rabbiting on about how terrible health and safety is might want to reconsider the decision they made to pull us out of.
Well, they might want to take their.
That could actually protect us.
Yeah, they want to take their head out of their armpit and look around to see the devastation that has been caused by us taking back control.
Yes, and giving it to the government, who have then given it to their mates who run the water companies.
Yeah, that's about right.
They've now got until something like 2050 to clean up their act, which by that time the whole place will just be one disgusting big pile of sewage, I think.
Yeah, with a Union flag on the top of it.
Yes, like a big dung heap. In fact, probably the whole country will be like that by then. No, it's awful. And United Utilities, the boss as well, he earns the most out of all the water company bosses.
Really?
And our local water, we're always having leaks on our road. We're always having leaks. And they come along and they fix it every now and again when it leaks. But they've never, replaced. It really needs replacing.
When you say fix, you mean patch up?
Yes, patch up. That's what I mean, exactly what I mean. So we're often without water for half a day or a whole day. And then it happens again a few months later. So.
I think they pulled out, is it £57 billion in dividends for shareholders since privatisation. Now, if they'd spent that money on actually providing a good service, then we would quite possibly have the best water companies and the best sewage facilities in the world. But instead, we've given it to foreign wealth funds.
That's right. And so, we could have been drinking, clear mountain water or gorgeous
out of solid
mineral
gold
water.
Out of solid gold cups.
Yes,
with diamonds for ice cubes.
Yes, I won't drink the water out of the tap. Not that I drink bottled water, because I think that's a complete rip-off, especially, and I wouldn't drink it out of plastic bottles anyway.
Where do you get your water?
We have an undersink filter. An undersink filter. And we have a filter on the shower, and so it's worth it, because actually people spend a fortune on bottled water, and yet I think it costs us about £100 to put it in the first place, but then the filters cost about £25 every 6 months.
Huh. That's
so people
bad.
must spend a lot more than that on bottled water.
Oh, yeah.
And pollute the planet in the process.
Yes,
with all
that's
their
right.
Plastic bottles.
All that single-use plastic,
Yeah. Get yourself an undersink tap. It's very pleasant. No horrible chlorine taste or other horrible things that you don't want in your water.
Well, we're getting like America. People in America, I was quite surprised when I first went over there, that they just don't drink out of their tap. And the water that comes out of their tap can be all sorts of shades of beige, which is not really the kind of colour that you want in your drinking water. And so they everybody that I met over there filters their water. And it's getting like that here now.
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't used to be, but it is now.
Oh, well, that's the Tories for you.
It's indisputably them, because they're the ones that done it. Yeah, they're the ones that sold off our water. We're the only country in the world that sold off all of its water. That's how stupid we are. Thanks, Annie. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC. It's 12:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Russia's president appears to have faced the most serious threat yet to his leadership after the mercenary group Wagner seized control of a Russian city and began to march on Moscow. The Kremlin now says those involved will not face prosecution. After they turned back, it's understood they'll be moving to neighbouring Belarus. Jeremy Hunt says the raising of interest rates may be painful, but it's still one of the best ways of getting inflation down. Writing in one of today's papers, the Chancellor is urging mortgage payers to be patient, even though repayments are rising. And a 3-storey house has collapsed in East London. Dozens of firefighters, search dogs and a drone team were called to the property in Hackney on Saturday afternoon. LBC weather, cloud will form in Northern Ireland and western areas overnight, but it should stay dry and clear for the rest of the UK, with a low of 14 degrees.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Yeah.
In which we try to solve people's problems. It comes out on a Monday. We have done about 170 episodes of this thing. I just can't believe it. We're both stunned that we managed to do 170-odd hours of this without killing each other. The idea is that we solve people's problems. If you want us to have a bash at your issue, send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com, NICKANDCAROL @global.com, but you must prepare to be totally satisfied. The podcast is called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol. I think you'll love it.
Oh, right, yeah.
What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol is available on Global Player. Comes out on a Monday. It's an hour long. If you wish to be amused, I think it'll be right up your alley. 0345 6060 973. Craig says, now that the leader of the Wagner Group has been forgiven by Putin, how long do you think it will be until he decides to jump out of a top-floor hotel window? I'd be surprised if he makes it through the lobby and into the lift. But if he does, then my best advice is to not eat the complimentary chocolates left on his pillow.
Warning, warning.
If it glows in the dark, don't eat it. 0345 6060 973. West Devon. Hello, Rose.
Hello, Nick.
Rose.
Isn't it wonderful, yes, to have Annie back?
Yes.
I'm
Annie.
just so pleased because I thought she'd gone for good. Well, I actually rang to say you were brilliant tonight and I adore you, but I have got one or two other things as well.
Yes.
Well, why shouldn't we say what we feel? Yes, I think it's all right. Is it all right to tell you about my bike? Because I felt really good when I got back, and I only got back at 5 to 10, and I thought, blimey, I'm going to miss the beginning, and switched you on. Oh, by the way, I was unfaithful to you with James. Yes, that's why I was in Plymouth.
Why were you in Plymouth?
Oh, well, they make you say a town, you see.
Oh, right.
But honestly, I was just about to make my second point, and he switched me off. Switched me off, he did. Yes, I'd hardly spoken.
Right, well,
no, he's all right.
A very,
he's
very
all right.
busy person.
Yes, exactly.
You were cycling until 10 o'clock this evening?
No, it's a little motorbike called a C90, and they're much sought after, and I've had it for 30-odd years when they were quite common. You'll probably know it more as the Honda 90. They're red and white or blue and white, depending which you've bought.
A C90. Is that a 90cc engine?
Yes, I mean, strictly speaking, it's an 85cc engine. But yeah, it's...
Oh, right, so it's a little scooter.
No, certainly not. No, it's a motorbike. It's what we call a step-through. It's a motorbike because you work it as a motorbike, not as a scooter.
Well, what's the difference?
Well, you've got me now. I haven't thought about it for years.
I'm looking at a picture of it. It looks like a scooter to me.
No, it does not.
Absolutely.
No, of course it doesn't. You don't put your feet on a thing in the middle. You put your feet on the pedals.
Oh, what is that? Right. Hey, I'm just looking at the second-hand price of the C90s. You're sitting on a fortune there. Is it
How much?
Is it in good working order?
Oh, yeah.
How many miles?
Oh, not very many, about 35,000 or something.
35,000 miles. Let's see if I can come up with something that's 35,000 miles. I've got low mileage, £3,000.
Really?
Yeah.
They've gone up then.
Here's one that's got 42,000 miles on it for £2,500. Blimey, you're a millionaire, Rose. Almost.
Oh, I wish. No, I don't want to lose it now. And this is the rub. You see, chaps come up to me. It's a man magnet. They come rushing up to me in the car park because you never see them now, and they say, "Oh, the best bike ever made," and that was my first bike. You know,
well,
these
now,
great
hang on,
with
because
these enormous
now wait a minute.
Harleys. They arrive on a Harley.
Hang on a
know,
sec.
and that sort of thing.
One moment, please, because I've just seen that there's a modern one that's a C90 that looks to me like a scooter, but you're quite right. It does have pedals where the Whereas, see, I don't know anything about bikes at all. I've never ridden one in my life. But there's an old one. What year is it?
1988 it was bought.
Right, okay. So it's the new type, because there's an old type that looks like it's from sort of the 1940s, but it's actually from the 1970s. It looks ancient, the old one. But the one that you got is either blue or red. Quite right, blue or red. You can have any colour you like, as long as it's blue or red.
And it's beautiful, yes. But they're not made anymore, and there is a new version. But it's a very simple bike to ride, and that's why the mechanics like them, because they're such good mechanically things and simply made.
Same with my old car.
The mechanics are stupid, but they're just not silly.
Same with my old car.
Aren't silly.
Whenever I put my old car in, it's people who know their cars will know an E36 328 coupe.
Right.
Mechanics loved it because there's no electrics on it at all. There's no computer. There's just none of that. You could mend it with a
mechanical.
We mend it with a hammer.
Yes, but I want to tell you, having started on it, you see, what happened tonight was I went to the mall and I saw, amongst other things, I went late, you see, because I feel very weird in the heat and the bright glaring. And I saw this skylark singing up and then I saw him plummeting slowly down. So that was a lovely thing. I'll tell you about them another time. But it's about the confidence. And I thought, you see, what happened with my eviction and everything? I seem to have lost confidence in things. And I didn't ride it a lot over the winter because of all the rain. And then now I really do not want to risk getting confused in the heat.
Right.
That's not my age. I've always been, affected by that. So I've gone off tonight at 7, and I got back at 5 to 10. And it all went swimmingly, so I just felt really elated. I don't know what it is. Once you get a little nervousness in you, you think, it's all going to go wrong. I'm going to come off. And there's some very awkward turns, because I used to be out in the country where I live, and now I've got to get through the town to go to the country, you see.
Yeah.
And there's some very, very awkward turns. But I thought, all I've got to do is take it easy, slow down, and focus, and nothing can go wrong. And the interesting thing is, what you want to not do, which is what I've been doing, is doing it in my imagination and then getting scared.
Right.
Because once you're on it, you've been doing it for 30-odd years, And the thing is a stable machine.
Well, you know what would be better?
You're all right once you're on it, really.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt it. But you know what would be better?
What?
Wow.
A car.
That took so long. What, she said, what would be better is if you added a couple of wheels, making it 4 wheels, and then put some sort of steel cage around yourself with, decent seats and windows. Somebody should invent something like that.
You are useless, Nick. I learned to drive years ago. I was fine driving the vehicle, but because I've been riding this for so long, I couldn't cope with the traffic and the size of the vehicle I was trying,
Now, are you one of those people on 2 wheels that buzzes around cars like mosquitoes, that undertakes on roundabouts?
Oh,
so
no.
You see them in your left-hand mirror, and then suddenly they're gone, and then they're on the right-hand side of the car. You've got absolutely no idea where they are, and you're in your car, you're dodging potholes and...
No.
Okay, then.
No, quite reverse. No, I mean, even when I was really very confident, I'd never do anything as daft as that.
Because people on scooters in London, they're an absolute menace. They drive as though nothing bad could ever happen to them because they are special. Well, they're not. People who drive cars are insulated, and because there's so many potholes, because there's so many potholes in the road, we are swerving almost constantly. And if we think that you're on the left, then we'll take that into account. But you don't stay on the left. You've got no idea where they are, and it's just absolutely infuriating and frightening at the same time.
Yes.
Because if one of them bounces off my bonnet, then they'll dent it.
Yes, well, quite. But then you see, when you think about potholes, I mean, they are terrifying if you're on a small two-wheel thing.
Exactly.
You just have to be peering at the road all the time.
Yeah, precisely. But that's
because
what
you've had it, haven't you?
Yeah, that's what it's like in a well-run country. Well, I wish you all the best, Rose. Be very, very careful. My advice is take the bus.
God. Well, I was hoping some other listener one day might have some brilliant psychological ruse for me to get out of this, because it's completely self-created, this nervousness. You know, I've just built up this picture. I think it was because of something that happened on the way to take it for service 10 months ago. You know, and it's a very, very difficult run, that, and I shouldn't have done it, really. I should have asked them to come and pick it up.
Yeah. Well, what they say is, I mean, if you fall...
just stuck in my head.
Right. Well, if you fall off your horse, you just get back on your horse. Have you ever considered a horse? Think about it, Rose.
One of these days.
And on that violent note, that's it. All right. Thanks a lot, Rose. 0345 6060 973. Another satisfied customer.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
We are, in fact, running late. South Norwood. Hello, Philip.
Oh, good evening, Nick.
Philip.
If I went to this school down in Ryde, in Kent, do you know what I'd go to school as and be identified as?
Tell me.
A scarecrow. And do you know why?
Go on.
Well, the Scarecrow is the most famous fictional character down in that part of Kent, in Dungeness, Lydd, Rye. Have you ever heard of Dr. Zinn?
Dr. who?
Zinn, S-Y-N. Dr. Zinn, during the day, he was a vicar, and at night he became the famous Scarecrow who rode across Rumney Marsh on a horse, avoiding the men who... customs and excise people. Have you never heard of him?
No, Dr. Zinn.
He was created by an author called Russell Thorndike, and there were two films made, one starring Patrick McGowan and George Cole.
Patrick McGowan out of The Prisoner.
Yes. And one
I
of them
am not a number. I am a free man.
Yes. Was a sidetrack, though. The remake of that was awful, but the original was wonderful.
Yeah.
Getting back to the Scarecrow, yes, it was. He's famous. Everybody knows. I mean, who lives in that part of the country knows Dr. Zinn, S-Y-N. And I would identify. I'd go to school as a Scarecrow. You know, just old clothes and probably have I don't know, a carrot or whatever it is they use. Well, you know, for a nose, isn't it? For a nose, are they Scarecrow?
A carrot? No, that's a snowman.
Is it? I haven't seen any scarecrows for a long time, so I don't know.
No. Well, I don't think they bother anymore. They just squirt pesticide all over the ground, and the birds don't come no more.
We'll have things like with bits of tinsel on it that when the wind comes, it blows everywhere. But as I say,
people used to do CDs, didn't they? You string up CDs. Like that would have an effect on your average crow.
I bet they don't get no crows down at Glastonbury with all the noise going on down there.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a crow-free zone, yeah.
But, yeah, as I say, that every time I go down to, I love Lydd-on-Sea and Dungeness, near the power station.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it's you know, having seen the film, it's on YouTube, it's a Disney film called Dr. Zinn, the Scarecrow of Rumney Marsh.
Well, the stuff you listen on this, you hear on this programme, it's like an education, no?
No. Yeah, well, it is indeed. One other thing, Nick, and this is not a joke, I'm not being silly when I say this.
Go on.
Have you ever been in a mini sub?
No.
The reason I say that, Nick, I spoke to a couple of my friends, and they'd all been in mini subs. Now, nothing like what we're talking about, you know, the one, but they've been in variation. One of them went on one in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. To see what it was, you know, what it was like. And I've been on one, a very small one, in a shopping centre in Canada. The West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton in Canada used to have 4 mini submarines that you could go in and you'd have a 25-minute submerged trip round a very, very large pool, I suppose, the best way to describe it.
Yeah, that's a no from me.
And also they had them, I believe, at Disney World as a feature for the film, for the book and film, Jules Verne's
Right.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yes. Well, that's still a no from me.
Oh, is it? Oh, well, I thought I'd mention it. And finally, Nick...
And in closing...
Yes, I like watching webcams on YouTube. And I've been watching one that I do watch with St. Petersburg in Russia.
Yeah.
Now, the one I look at, Nick, is a very busy street in St. Petersburg. Well, I looked at it tonight, and the street was blocked off. So the traffic was coming down, but it looked like they had army lorries there blocking half of the street. So the traffic was having to turn right, whereas they would have gone straight across, buses and everything. So I couldn't really see very clearly just whether it was anything to do with what we've been hearing on the news.
Yeah, but no doubt.
Absolutely, Nick, yes.
An excess of precaution.
Do you ever look at webcams on YouTube, Nick?
No.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I seriously doubt that.
Oh, I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you one that is really good. I'm going to recommend one. There's a place in Minnesota called Duluth. Have you ever been to Duluth, Minnesota?
No, I have not.
And Abbot, check that out. It's the canal that runs through Duluth. And it's amazing the ships that you get. Not all the time, occasionally come through there.
Well, it sounds like one of those slow TV things.
Exactly.
You
Nick,
just tune out and relax.
Yes, I mean, they've become very, very popular over the years, haven't they?
Well, I'll check it out at my leisure. Thanks a lot, Philip. 0345 6060 973. I've started on this cat thing, so I'll finish. So many texts and emails and stuff to get through. It's like 7 or 8 pages of them. And I can't read them out without reading them out. In other words, I can't thin them out and get rid of the bad ones because I would need to go to a break or something, and I ain't got no breaks left. So I'm going to leave it to my glamorous assistant to wheedle out the bad ones and leave only the best. Parents with children at a Jersey school have been sharing their bemusement after a head teacher wrote to them shutting down a rumour that cat litter trays had been installed in school toilets. The kids must be just thrilled with this, upsetting adults. I mean, what's better than that for your average kid, right? Staff at Jersey College for Girls have been aware of the rumours circulating for some time, with head teacher Carl Howarth calling the claims clearly nonsense and utterly ludicrous. Well, that sounds like a job for Kemi Badenoch, Equalities Minister. Let no fake panic about cat people go uninvestigated. Investigating non-stories about cat people is this government's top priority.
It's the country's number one priority.
Jersey College for Girls head teacher Carl said, "We had hoped these rumours would naturally stop without our involvement. However, rather bizarrely, this does not seem to be the case." Well, you know what? 30p Lee Anderson, he already let the cat person out of the bag on this one when he actually said on camera how the Tories are going to approach the next election. He said that the last time they won with Bodger Johnson and Brexit and Jeremy Corbyn, and next time they won't have those things to bamboozle the electorate into voting against their own interests. So they'll have to fight the next election on wokeism and trans issues. I mean, he didn't quite put it like that. He didn't say bamboozle. But he did say the bit about the trans and the wokey-cokey.
Okie dokie.
They just have a knack for saying the quiet part out loud, which just illustrates how massively entitled that party is to think that they're somehow born to rule. As though after 13 years of nothing but Tory, they have somehow cemented in their position in number 10. So expect a lot more of this kind of thing. And, you know, if I was a teenager, I'd be thinking up ways to upset them and everyone else in this country in a position of authority, because it seems to be very, very easy to trigger them. And what could be more fun than seeing some old geezer hyperventilating about you identifying as a moon or a leprechaun?
The little people.
So Jersey College for Girls faced claims that litter trays have been installed in school toilets to cater for students identifying as cats. Dogs get their own facilities. I mean, it's not true, but that doesn't stop the usual suspects going into a Victorian fainting fit after howling the place down. I mean, it's the way of the world now, kids. Grown-ups have totally lost their minds. And this started in America, this internet hoax, where it became popular among, and by popular I mean they were using it for their own evil ends, conservative commentators and politicians. They picked up on this, desperate to find some way of terrifying their audience and electorate into watching more unhinged right-wing television news and voting for politicians who think that the answer to everything is more guns and extra Bibles. So in September, a couple of years ago, the Republican candidate standing to be the next governor of Minnesota, called Scott Jensen, he said, "Why do we have litter boxes in some of the schools districts so kids can pee in them because they identify as a furry? We've lost our minds," he said. Well, he certainly has. Or he thinks the American people have. A little bit of both, maybe. I mean, Republicans have got form on this.
I love the poorly educated,
he said to a crowd of poorly educated people, and they whooped and cheered. And a candidate running for state office in Texas said that cafeteria tables were being lowered to allow furries to eat without using utensils. And school districts said, no, that's not true. And fact checkers were unable to substantiate any of the reports shared on social media sites like Facebook and WhatsApp. But that didn't stop the conspiracy theory from gaining ground over there. And now it's come here, crossed the Atlantic, taken up roots right here. But, you know, just because it isn't true doesn't stop it from being a fact.
Correct.
In some people's minds. In January this year, Aberdeenshire Council had to debunk false rumours that students at Banff Academy were, and I'm sorry about this, but this is what the rumour was, they were defecating on the floor in protest against not being provided with litter trays.
Disgusting.
I mean, that wasn't true either, but it invites a sort of panic that becomes self-sustaining. And pretty soon you have this sort of tripe being served up in right-wing papers, which have spent the day trying to find some way in which Meghan Markle is responsible. Thanks a lot, Meghan Markle. You see what you've done? No! And a spokesman said, we're aware of false rumours circulating online that Banff Academy has pupils identifying as cats requesting litter trays in the academy's toilets. It's disappointing to see this rumour continuing to spread. Completely untrue. I mean, it's how people still think that the US election was stolen from Adolf Hitler. It's how people still think that Brexit was a grassroots movement by patriots to take back control. We're in the misinformation age where truth has gone to die. So keep your eyes peeled and your ears open. Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. Now, if you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player. You can rewind live radio on Global Player as well. And if you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, the magic phrase is, play Nick Abbott The Whole Show podcast. I'm going to be back tonight at 10 o'clock for my Abnormal Normal show. Coming up at 4, Ian Payne. But right now, Clyde Bull. 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 But right now.